junk right now. It's misfiring quite badly. As you can see, we're getting maximum potential out of this AMG right now. 6 miles per hour. I feel like I'm in a Model T, where you're just like driving down the road and people are walking past you faster.
SUVs are known for power, presence, and practicality. But when automakers tried to make them fast, the results weren't always pretty. Unlike sleek sports cars designed for speed and precision, SUVs are heavy, top-heavy, and built for comfort or off-road capability. Pushing them to higher speeds often revealed serious flaws. Unstable handling, poor braking, and rollover risks that put drivers and passengers in danger. Some looked like beasts on the outside, but turned into nightmares on the highway. In this video, we're counting down 9 SUVs that couldn't handle speed, despite their big engines, bold styling, and ambitious promises. These vehicles serve as cautionary tales, showing what happens when raw power outpaces engineering balance. Number 9. Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. On paper, the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk sounds like a dream. With a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 pulled straight from the Dodge Hellcat, it makes a jaw-dropping 707 horsepower. Jeep marketed it as the fastest production SUV in the world when it launched, and in a straight line, that claim wasn't far off. 0 to 60 came in under 4 seconds, a figure that rivals exotic sports cars. But raw speed isn't the same as control. At higher speeds, the Trackhawk revealed major flaws. Its heavy weight, tipping over 5,300 pounds, combined with a high center of gravity, made handling unpredictable. Cornering at speed felt more like a battle than a thrill, with body roll and understeer always threatening to throw the SUV off balance. Braking distances were another problem, slowing down over 2.5 tons of metal moving that quickly tested the limits of even its Brembo brakes. Add in traction issues when all that power hit the ground, and the Trackhawk became a machine that was fun for a few seconds, but terrifying if you pushed it too far. The Trackhawk proved that just because you can put supercar power in an SUV doesn't mean you should. It gave drivers bragging rights, but at the cost of stability and control, making it one of the clearest examples of an SUV that simply couldn't handle speed. Number 8. Ford Explorer. Early 2000s models. The Ford Explorer became one of America's best-selling SUVs, but in the early 2000s, it also gained one of the worst reputations when it came to safety at higher speeds. On paper, the Explorer looked like a family-friendly SUV with a comfortable ride, decent power, and a trusted Ford badge. But once it hit the highway, a dangerous flaw revealed itself: a tendency to roll over. The issue became notorious during the Firestone tire scandal. Many Explorers were equipped with Firestone tires that suffered from tread separation at highway speeds. When a blowout occurred, the Explorer's high center of gravity and narrow track made it extremely prone to losing stability. A sudden swerve, or even a quick lane change at 65 or 70 miles per hour, could easily flip the SUV. Reports of crashes, injuries, and fatalities mounted, drawing massive attention from regulators and the public. The bigger problem, however, was that this wasn't just about the tires, it was about the Explorer's design. Even with good rubber, the SUV was still top-heavy, with suspension tuned more for comfort than stability. Its handling was vague, steering responses were slow, and emergency maneuvers at speed often ended in disaster. The fallout was huge. Lawsuits piled up, Firestone had to recall millions of tires, and Ford was forced to make design changes in later generations. But the Explorer's image took a serious hit. For many drivers, it became the symbol of why SUVs could be dangerous at speed, and why automakers needed to take stability more seriously. The Ford Explorer of that era showed how a bestseller could turn into a nightmare on the highway, and why speed plus poor engineering was a deadly combination. Number 7. Mercedes-Benz ML55 AMG. When Mercedes-Benz introduced the ML55 AMG in the early 2000s, it was one of the first attempts to fuse luxury SUV practicality with sports car performance. Under the hood, it carried a hand-built 5.5-liter V8, producing 342 horsepower, a huge number for SUVs at the time. On paper, it looked like the perfect mix: German luxury, AMG engineering, and serious power. But in reality, the ML55 exposed the dangers of putting too much speed into an SUV not designed to handle it. The SUV was fast in a straight line, no question, but its chassis and suspension simply weren't up to the task of controlling all that weight at high speeds. The ML55 was bulky, top-heavy, and carried a lot of body roll when cornering. Push it into turns at highway speeds, and it quickly reminded drivers that this was still a tall SUV, not a low-slung AMG sedan. Another weakness came from braking. At over 4,700 pounds, the ML55's weight punished its brake system. Under repeated hard stops, drivers experienced brake fade, longer stopping distances, and a lack of confidence that was unacceptable for something wearing an AMG badge. Add in steering that felt vague at speed, and the whole experience was more nerve-wracking than exhilarating. The ML55 AMG did prove there was a market for high-performance SUVs, but it was also a lesson in what happens when speed is bolted onto a platform without fully addressing stability and handling. Later, AMG SUVs would improve drastically, but the ML55 remains an early example of a fast SUV that struggled when pushed to highway limits. It was exciting in short bursts, but at speed, it was more liability than luxury. Number 6. Toyota RAV4, first generation. When Toyota launched the first-generation RAV4 in the mid-1990s, it was marketed as a fun, compact SUV that blended car-like comfort with off-road capability. It was light, affordable, and easy to drive around town. But when pushed onto highways at higher speeds, the little RAV4 revealed just how unstable it could be. The first-generation RAV4 was built on a unibody platform, giving it a lighter feel compared to traditional body-on-frame SUVs. While that made it fuel-efficient and nimble at city speeds, it also meant the RAV4 lacked the weight and stability that larger SUVs carried on the highway. Its high center of gravity and narrow track made it top-heavy, so at 60 or 70 miles per hour, sudden swerves or crosswinds could cause the SUV to wander across lanes, or, in some cases, tip over. Reviews at the time noted that the RAV4's steering felt twitchy, and drivers had to constantly correct the wheel to keep it in line at speed. Add in a suspension tuned more for comfort than precision, and the RAV4 felt unsettled during highway maneuvers. Even a gust of wind could push it off course, which made longer trips more stressful than enjoyable. It's important to remember that the RAV4 wasn't built as a performance machine. It was one of the first compact crossovers designed for practicality. But its early flaws showed the limits of putting a tall body on a lightweight frame. Drivers loved its quirky looks and affordable price, but when speed entered the equation, The RAV4 showed why small SUVs needed major refinements before they could handle highway performance. The first-gen RAV4 may have been a pioneer in the compact SUV market, but at speed, it was far from stable, earning its place on this list. Number 5. Chevy Trailblazer SS. When Chevrolet unveiled the Trailblazer SS in the mid-2000s, it was one of the boldest moves in the SUV world. Chevy took its mid-size Trailblazer and dropped in a Corvette-sourced 6.0-liter LS2 V8, giving it 395 horsepower and muscle car-like performance. For buyers who wanted an American SUV with serious grunt, it sounded like the perfect package. In straight-line speed, the Trailblazer SS delivered. 0 to 60 in about 5.7 seconds was impressive for an SUV of its size, and it gave Chevy fans bragging rights. But when pushed beyond drag strip bursts, the Trailblazer SS quickly showed that it wasn't built to handle its own power. The SUV's suspension wasn't refined enough for high-speed stability. While Chevy stiffened it compared to the regular Trailblazer, it still suffered from body roll and poor weight distribution. Cornering at highway speeds made the Trailblazer SS feel unsettled, as though the back end could step out with little warning. Add in a curb weight over 4,700 pounds, and it simply didn't have the balance to inspire driver confidence. Braking was another weak spot. Bringing that much weight to a stop after high-speed runs led to long stopping distances and brake fade during repeated use. Even the transmission struggled, with many owners reporting overheating problems when the SUV was driven aggressively. It was a case of brute power outpacing engineering refinement. The Trailblazer SS was exciting for its uniqueness. It was a rare American performance SUV in an era dominated by imports. But at speed, its flaws were hard to ignore. It was fast in a straight line, but unpredictable when asked to corner or stop under pressure. For all its muscle car heritage, the Trailblazer SS proved that just stuffing a big engine into an SUV doesn't make it capable of handling speed. Number 4. Porsche Cayenne Turbo, early models. When Porsche announced it was building an SUV in the early 2000s, purists scoffed. The Cayenne, however, turned into a commercial success and kept the brand alive financially. The turbo version, with a twin turbocharged V8 producing over 450 horsepower, promised blistering speed. It could sprint from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, making it one of the fastest SUVs of its time. But speed is only half the equation. The early Cayenne Turbo exposed serious flaws when it came to stability and control at higher speeds. Despite Porsche's engineering efforts, the SUV still weighed well over 5,000 pounds. That bulk made cornering feel unnatural, as though the body wanted to fight against the wheels. Drivers often complained of understeer, with the Cayenne pushing wide in turns rather than following the intended line. On tighter roads or highway on-ramps, the SUV felt more like a wrestling match than a precise performance machine. The steering also came under fire. While Porsche's sports cars were known for razor-sharp feedback, the Cayenne's steering felt vague and disconnected at higher speeds. Combine that with the sheer mass of the SUV, and drivers had to work harder than expected to keep it planted and under control. Braking performance was strong thanks to large discs, but even then, repeated high-speed use revealed fade. The Cayenne Turbo marked Porsche's first step into the high-performance SUV world, but it wasn't a flawless debut. Later generations would refine the balance, making them truly capable at speed. But the early models were proof that even Porsche couldn't fully escape the physics of weight and height. At top speeds, the Cayenne Turbo was powerful but twitchy, an SUV that felt fast but not always safe. Number 3. Suzuki Samurai. The Suzuki Samurai might not be the first SUV that comes to mind when we talk about speed, but its reputation for instability at higher speeds is legendary. Launched in the late 1980s as a small, affordable off-road SUV, the Samurai quickly became popular for its rugged charm and compact size. But once it hit American highways, its weaknesses became impossible to ignore. The Samurai was extremely light, weighing under 2,200 pounds, and had a very narrow track with a tall, boxy body. This combination made it dangerously top-heavy. At higher speeds, even small steering inputs could cause the vehicle to sway or feel unsettled. Emergency maneuvers, like swerving to avoid an obstacle, often ended in disaster. The most infamous problem was its rollover risk, so bad that in 1988, Consumer Reports labeled the Samurai as not acceptable after it tipped over during routine testing. That single review caused a storm. Lawsuits, debates, and heated arguments followed, but the Samurai's reputation never recovered. While off-road enthusiasts appreciated its durability on trails, everyday drivers found it terrifying on highways. Crosswinds could push it across lanes, sudden turns could put it on two wheels, and in many cases, rollovers resulted in serious accidents. Suzuki tried to defend the Samurai, claiming the tests were unfair, but the damage was already done. The SUV became a textbook example of how poor design balance could make a vehicle dangerous at speed. It wasn't built for fast driving, yet many owners treated it like a regular SUV for commuting. That mismatch between purpose and reality sealed its fate. The Samurai may have had its fans, especially among off-roaders, but at highway speeds, it was one of the most unstable SUVs ever sold in America, earning its spot near the top of this list. Number 2. Land Rover Discovery. The Land Rover Discovery 2 carried all the charm of a classic British SUV. Rugged looks, off-road pedigree, and a comfortable upscale interior. For many buyers in the late 1990s and early 2000s, it was the perfect blend of adventure and luxury. But when it came to highway driving at speed, the Discovery 2's flaws quickly showed themselves. The biggest issue was stability. The Discovery 2 had a tall, boxy body and a high center of gravity, making it prone to leaning heavily in corners. At speeds of 65 or 70 miles per hour, even mild lane changes could feel unsettling. Drivers often complained of body roll so extreme that it felt like the entire SUV was tipping. Combine that with vague steering, and the Discovery 2 was far from confidence-inspiring when pushed on highways. The suspension was another weak point. While it was tuned for off-road comfort and durability, it didn't provide the precision needed for high-speed control. On uneven pavement or sudden dips, the Discovery felt floaty and unpredictable. In some cases, its top heaviness led to rollover risks during emergency maneuvers, an issue that haunted Land Rover's image for years. Braking performance was also problematic. The Discovery 2 was heavy, tipping the scales at nearly 5,000 pounds, yet its brakes weren't powerful enough to stop it quickly from high speeds. Stopping distances were long, and repeated hard braking could cause fade, leaving drivers with even less control. Despite these flaws, the Discovery 2 still had a loyal fan base. Its off-road ability was nearly unmatched, And for buyers who wanted an SUV for trails and countryside drives, it delivered. But on modern highways, where speed and stability mattered, the Discovery 2 lagged behind. It showed that off-road toughness didn't always translate into high-speed safety. For all its charm, the Discovery 2 was a reminder that Land Rover's early focus on off-road ability came at the cost of on-road control, making it one of the SUVs that couldn't handle speed. Number 1. Dodge Durango, first generation. When Dodge launched the first-generation Durango in the late 1990s, it was marketed as the SUV that could do it all: family hauling, towing, off-roading, and cruising the highway with V8 power. It had bold styling, strong engines, and plenty of space, which made it an instant hit with American buyers. But when it came to high-speed stability, the Durango was one of the most troubling SUVs of its time. The problem stemmed from its design. Built on a modified Dodge Dakota pickup platform, the Durango inherited a tall stance and a truck-like suspension. At lower speeds, this wasn't a huge issue, but once the SUV reached highway speeds, its flaws came to the surface. The high center of gravity and stiff, uneven suspension tuning made it feel unstable, especially during quick maneuvers. Even routine lane changes at 65 or 70 miles per hour could make drivers feel like the SUV was swaying out of control. Rollovers became a serious concern. The Durango had one of the higher rollover rates among SUVs in its class, earning criticism from safety experts. In emergency situations, such as avoiding a collision, the SUV was far more likely to tip or lose control compared to safer rivals. Braking was another problem. Despite its size and weight, the Durango's brakes were undersized for repeated high-speed use. Long stopping distances and brake fade made drivers nervous, especially when towing. Add in vague steering that lacked precision at highway speeds, and the Durango became unpredictable under pressure. What made the issue worse was that many families bought the Durango for everyday use, often with kids in the back. Its poor safety record, combined with high-profile rollover incidents, tarnished its image. Dodge improved things in later generations, but the first-gen Durango remains a cautionary tale. It promised muscle and versatility, but when it came to handling speed, the Durango showed just how dangerous an SUV could be. That's why it earns the number 1 spot on this list. SUVs are built to be versatile, but speed has never been their natural strength. These 9 vehicles proved that when automakers tried to mix raw horsepower with tall, heavy bodies, the results could be unpredictable and even dangerous. From rollovers to poor braking and twitchy handling, these SUVs remind us that stability and engineering matter just as much as power. Which of these surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the cars and trucks that shaped the automotive world, for better or worse.